Welcome back to the Lightning Summit here. Ricardo, which I pronounce Ricky correct, with the Ricky, explained to you that the uncurated structure in the afternoon will be free to organize, which means that you will have to come up with topics. One thing that he didn't say is that I would like you to sneak on each other. So since many of you will not take the effort to write anything on the whiteboard, but you will still gather in small groups to discuss lighting stuff. So if you see an unlawful group discussing lighting things without writing it on the whiteboard, you try to listen, you understand the topic, you go to the whiteboard, and you sneak them out. So please do it. But the purpose of these uncurated sections in the afternoon is not really to give you freedom. We want to give you the delusion of freedom. We want you to think that you're coming up with the topics, but we want to basically nudge your subconscious to this morning in order to shape your desires and your thinking. So what I'm going to tell you about is the actual way you have to think during these 2 days. And then you can go back into thinking you're free to decide and it's, uncurated and everything. So we have to, I will give you a few ideas that we discussed together with the boss and the other bosses about the topics that are important for the evolution of the lighting network. And we will try to do so starting from the very question what the lighting network even is. So we know that the lighting network is the result of a fork in, not a consensus fork, well, also Segwit, but a philosophical fork in the road, in the path of Bitcoin. On one side, we had the idea of gigamesh blocks on-chain scaling. On the other side, we had the idea of off-chain scaling, removing stuff from the global consensus because you know that the global consensus is problematic. It reduces scalability, but also it compromises privacy. It helps miners to censor transactions. So removing stuff from the global consensus is a good thing. And that's the Lightning Network. But for many years, the Lightning Network has been completely associated with the Poon-Drea channel construction. It's very similar to what Christian Decker already was publishing, creating a few months before, and then Christian adopted the same standards, then all the industry adopted the same standards. But we already know that the Drea-Poon channel itself is a very limited kind of construction. There are many problems. One problem is that it's just two parties, so it takes a lot of channels to onboard everybody. Liquidity is stuck between the two parties. It's not easy to onboard people very fast. You have to rebalance, so it's complicated to do everything just with the Drea-Poon channel. But the Lightning Network was not just Tadeusz himself. He always considered the construction of the Drea-Poon channel as something like a hack. Not very elegant, not certainly the most definite way to do things. So there is Lightning as in Lightning channel, but Lightning is not a channel. Lightning is a network. So my boss Roy came out with this idea almost 1 year ago, and the idea is that the Lightning network is not about the channel. The Lightning Network is a global swooping and routing and invoicing standard across different types of security models. So the idea of the network is that it can cross, it can hook, it can swoop, it can route, and it can invoice across different security models with different trade-offs. Some are better for long-term security, some are better for instant confirmation, some are better to onboard more people, some are better for additional features. So there is a lot of stuff that we can pack into the Lightning Network. What we try to do with the Lightning Summit is to nudge you and to force you psychologically to think of the Lightning Network not as a connection among Drea-Poon channels, but as a global interoperability standard connecting all the different security models in Bitcoin. So it's all Lightning Network basically. So let's try to see what are the news and the exciting improvements and the new directions or the old directions that we have to check on about these two definitions of the Latin network. If we start from the Driapun channel itself, the current construction that makes up, I guess, I don't know, but probably a big part of the current Latin network, there is one thing mostly, maybe you can come up with something else, but from our review is basically one thing which is interesting, which is moving the channels to Taproot. Taproot was a fork that was especially designed in order to make off-chain contracts better, because when you come back on-chain, you can only reveal some parts. If you do a consensual bilateral closing in a Lightning channel, you can go on-chain with a one-on-one signature, with the signature aggregation, with a path of the signature, so it doesn't even seem anything different from a unilateral spend from one individual. If you actually have to do an uncooperative closing, then you reveal only one part of the script, which is smaller, is nicer. So moving the channels to Taproot is a good idea. Currently, I would say that the advancement on this regard is mostly going on inside L&D with Lightning Labs. The reason is that they are implementing TAPAS, which is a reimplementation of the RGB idea, and it needs Taproot specifically to commit. The RGB idea was created by imagining that you take the off-chain commitments and you put them into a tweaking of the public key, which was like a ad hoc design we came up with. Taproot already is a tweaking of the public key, so the idea is just both the RGB team and the TAPAS team came up with the same conclusion. Lightning Labs is leading the development of the Taproot compatible channel, but stuff are moving also in LDK. There is something happening in Async as well. Nothing final, and other startups are also going there. So okay, we have the Taproot channels. One of the reasons that's happening is because we want to use the channel script in order to commit to other things with the RGB off-chain client-side validation model, which is cool. We are not very close to see that becoming mainstream yet anyway. If the use cases of the assets are going to become very, very important for the ecosystem, then maybe that will be a push in the direction of evolving the network from legacy channels to Taproot channels, but that will take time, and is something we are waiting for since a very long time at this point. Then there is the actual definition that we care about, which is the Lightning Network as the common language of the Bitcoin economy. So a global standard for swapping, routing, hopping, and invoicing. And the main instance that we see realized already of this concept is the swapping around. In the last 2 years, we have seen the Lightning Network move from just Driapun to Driapun to Driapun to Driapun routing, each HCSA routing, into actually a lot of swapping. Some of the swapping is on-chain to Lightning. So submarine swaps out, submarine swaps in. That was an important use case because it was also very hard to do everything without this kind of building brick. I think the most notable case was Phoenix, because in Phoenix everything, and Breeze as well, but Phoenix was the first one to have, I think, was the first one to come out with this user experience at least. So you just have one amount, and when somebody is paying from an on-chain transaction, it was just swapping. And then when you pay to an on-chain address, it will just swap out. So everything is Lightning, and the on-chain use case is just a subcategory of the global routing standard. But then other things started to swap with the Lightning Network. For example, we have, there should be Kalle somewhere, well, it will be in the panel later. So Kalle is working on Cashew, which is a Xiaomi Mint. The idea of using Chaumian mints for money is not new. Already David Chaum came up with that with eCash, and then people were thinking to using blind signatures for Bitcoin many times. And finally, we are doing that. Of course, this is a custodial model. This is not a trustless model. You have a mint, and the mint can run away with the money. It is still better than pure custody. It's better than, for example, the wallet of Satoshi kind of experience, because, or even worse, the KYC exchange experience, because the mint cannot see how much you have, so they cannot rug pull you specifically. They can rug pull everybody at the same time, which is not nice, but the incentive structure is a little bit different, and you can use it for small amounts, and then you can move to an actual Lightning channel or on-chain for bigger amounts. Some wallets implementing these, of course, Cashew is entirely integrated in the Lightning Network, but there's also Fedi, the Fedi application and the Fedi Mint idea, and it's very nice because that's a first example of using the Lightning Network as a common language. If you use Fedi, you send each other, and if you don't use the internal interface of the contacts to send money or to ask for money, what you do is you use Lightning invoices. You use in Fedi, I think it's still Bolt 11, and if the payee and the payer are on the same Fedi mint, then the mint will understand it, and they will just give an eCash token to each other. If instead they are on different mints, then actually there will be a Lightning payment across the mints. So you see it's already very well integrated, at least across these two security models. There is Fedi application, Cashew. The difference is that Fedi is also adding a federated model on top of the eCash mint. So that's already part of it. But there is also the idea of liquid. Somebody may remember Moon, a very popular Lightning wallet, which was not a Lightning wallet. It was an on-chain wallet, and for this reason it was easier to use, but every time you were paying something, it was swapping instantly on Lightning and back. That made for a very good user experience, except that it was pointless, because when fees are high, you have to pay on-chain fees for everything, which is the point of Lightning Network was to avoid that. So currently it's very popular another model, which is the model of using a sidechain, namely Liquid. The difference between a sidechain and a cash mint is that now the mint or the federation running the mint can still run away with their money. It's still hard to know which one is your money because there is confidential assets, but now they cannot do fractional reserve without you detecting it. So the main advantage of Liquid over Cashew is mostly that they cannot do fractional reserve. Another advantage is that they are reusing a model which is closer to Bitcoin, so there may be better interoperability, better code reusability. Liquid is being used as a laboratory, as a research lab for Bitcoin, which is cool, I guess. So there is Liquid. Aqua is using this model. The new SDK, the nodeless SDK from Breeze is using this model. Bull Bitcoin is using this model, Bull Bitcoin app. So it's working a lot. It's very popular. Again, this is not trustless. The federation cannot fractional reserve, but they can just run away with the money, regardless of who they are. Or they can censor. If the cops get some Liquid Federate in prison today, tomorrow probably the other federates will just stop signing Liquid blocks. So it's a fragile model which is very cool for some use cases and some amounts. Arguably for the assets is better because the assets are they don't require any swap out, they don't require any redeeming. Then there is the concept of state chain. It was proposed by Ruben a few years ago, and it's very cool. There was the Mercury layer implementation. The Mercury wallet is implementing this, but not many people cared. Recently, there is Spark, and they implemented it with, I guess, better marketing. Now, there may be some technical interesting differences. So now everybody's talking about Spark. It's a state chain. It's a nice concept. The advantage over Liquid is mostly that now the mint, which can be a federation or a single entity, or using maybe like Liquid, they may be using HSMs and trusted computing. They cannot run away with your money. They can only collude with the previous owner in order to take back the money they already spent. So they can basically, I'm using a metaphor, they can reorg, they can basically double spend with reorg. So it's still a powerful thing, but you can still see that the threshold between non-custodial and custodial started to blur a little bit away here. So they cannot run away, they can collude with previous spenders, which is something that Bitcoin miners can already do, by the way. A majority of Bitcoin miners in layer 1 can still go away, collude with somebody to undo a payment. So state chains are cool, Spark is interesting, and now everybody's talking about Spark. But of course, the new cool kid in the block is Arc. Some ARC people here. Everything is ARC now, a lot of ARC discussion. ARC is even better than the state chain because there's a particular model that will actually will make it possible for the current owner to unilaterally exit without the cooperation of the ARC or without any possibility for the ARC maintainer to collude with previous spenders. Of course, there are a lot of caveats here. ARC as a trustless model in a certain time window before the next block where there is the on-chain transaction, you are trusting to some level the ARC service provider, and after a certain amount of time, if you don't go back in to claim your money, you're back to trusting the ARC provider. So it is trustless in a relevant time window, and it has many advantages, namely easy onboarding, multilateral channel. There is an article that my boss Roy wrote, which is not out yet, right? It will be out in the next physical version of Bitcoin Magazine. Now, I don't necessarily condone you reading Bitcoin Magazine, but in this case, I can forgive you because there is a very good article which explains the history of the so-called channel factories. So the idea of moving from a bilateral channel to a multilateral channel, there was already the original, the OG of channels. Christian already had something about that many years ago, that there was the L2 discussion with a lot of discussion about the way in which Lightning Symmetry helps multilateral channels without punishment. So ARC is very cool, and ARC is also, I think, in a very apt and good way, being presented not as an alternative to the Lightning Network. It is being presented as part of the Lightning Network. When I pay you, I may pay on a Driapun channel where the next node will hook on another one, then they will swap on Liquid, then they will swap in an ARC, then from ARC to the other ARC, there will still be another person in the same ARC, then they will go to a state chain. And we don't need the user to know anything about this. The good thing is that some wallets are already going into the direction in which you don't even need to know. For example, if you use Phoenix or Breeze, you don't know if it's on chain or if it's on a Lightning channel. Well, it's always in a Lightning channel. If you use Aqua, you don't really care if it's on Liquid or not. That's not necessarily good because maybe you want to care because of security, but there are some new UX ideas like Blitz Wallet. I like it particularly. It's an experimental implementation, so don't use it for your money, but the UX is very interesting. When you receive a small amount, it's just a eCash token. If it goes up, it becomes a Liquid UTXO. If it goes up, it actually becomes a Lightning channel, and if it goes up again, it just becomes on-chain one-of-one signature. So in a transparent way for the user, the security model adapts to the use. For peanuts, you don't want. So we don't want to pay for maximum security for small amounts of money. That's not reasonable. Nobody's paying for an armed guarded underground facility to store $1 or 1 cent, except if you are Scrooge McDuck, but that's a non-fungible cent. So that's cool, and we see a lot of wallets going through this security model, which I think is the way the Lightning Network will shape itself. It's the same as the internet. If a user now opens a browser, they will not know exactly that the browser is connecting to the local, that is basically negotiating the local IP with the global IP in the router, and then there will be a TCP connection on top of the IP addresses. They don't know, they just navigate to the internet. They may see a green lock for TLS and HTTPS, but that's basically it. So the idea is to make it transparent to the users in a way that doesn't bring the user to stay in the cashew model for $1 million, because otherwise the users will just get robbed. Now, in the next panel, there will be a discussion about this mostly. So I trust that the panel discussion will be about all the security model. There will be somebody representing Cashew and eCash, somebody representing ARC, and we will discuss this. Basically, this will be the story of a sadomasochistic attraction toward the different security models. And I'm in for that. I'm completely in for that. So, yes, you cannot unsee that. I know, sorry. There are many other ideas that are that maybe started differently, but are now blending into this kind of mindset. For example, Ascent, we're proposing to collect a series of funding fee credits, because maybe your money is not enough to justify the creation of a Lightning channel, but you just collect the credit until the global amount is enough, and then you basically redeem these UTXO, these virtual UTXOs. Now, this is from 2000. This is from 1 year ago, and it was just an initial idea. But now there is an active discussion about making these funding fee credits maybe represented as a Spark sidechain kind of things, or there may be some kind of representation inside of ARC or whatever. So you see, this is the idea to abstract away the complexity from the user. The user just needs to know that for small amounts, he will have low security, which makes sense, very cheap and very fast. And for big amounts, they will have better security, which is by definition more expensive and will be slower. There's also a thing that one of the differences between all the other models, the eCash Mint, if you use, for example, Minibits is a good wallet, but if you try to use it, using the Xiaomi token experience will be particularly weird for us, because it works the other way around, basically. So I suggest you to try out Minibits. Fedi makes a very good job into hiding the eCash model inside the Lightning Network. But from a technical point of view, you cannot really reuse what you do in Cashew to evolve the Lightning Network. But there is one of this security model, which is ARC, which is also interesting because the structure is such that you can experiment future Lightning evolutions inside ARC with a reasonable trade-off in security models. So, for example, the virtual channels that you can create within an ARC, they may be Dreapun, or they may be an old OG duplex channel, or they may be new kind of stuff. So you can experiment in ARCs in ways that can even be foreshadowing what we could do with a real channel if we had covenants or whatever, which is pretty cool, of course, with the adequate security model. Now, when I say swapping and routing, we mostly mean atomic swapping and routing. So I'm not just paying you and maybe my payee will receive something. I want to know that the routing is trustless and it's atomic. So we need the mechanism. The current mechanism is HTLC, which has some drawbacks, mostly in privacy also, but many other kinds of drawbacks. So there is this idea to move to basically elliptic curve points instead of just hashes pre-image revealing. PTLC, how is that going? Well, it's low. It would be better if it was faster. So this is Greg updated this spiral roadmap 3 days ago. So there is some movement here, but I think we should go faster on this. One of the problem would be incentives, so moving the network. So there is a big difference between this update and the Taproot channel. Taproot channel is a local update. It means that as long as it uses HTLC, I can change my channel because I have incentives, and I can still be part of the same routing network. This is a breaking change in the routing network, unless somebody comes up with a very smart way not to make it so, which I'm not sure is possible. So this is hard to do, and we should really focus on this because this is a hard change that will improve many things in Lightning. There are a lot of other invoicing innovation, mostly related to Bolt 12. Last year there was Steve Lee shilling Bolt 12. 2 years ago, we also were discussing Ball 12. Now we're finally going there in terms of adoption. People are using Ball 12, but also Ball 12 is getting better. It was always superior, in my opinion, to LNURL from the point of view of the general construction, but from the point of view of user adoption and effective use cases, it was a little bit lacking, and now it's getting better. First of all, async payments, this is something which I think is very important for non-custodial Lightning. If you want to receive money, you want to shut down your phone and still receive money. Sure, you can have Google services waking up your phone, but maybe you enter the metro or whatever, and so you cannot receive money unless you're custodial. So async payments makes all the difference. Roy was already giving many speeches about that. Still, well, I guess it's coming slowly but steadily. And the nice thing is that it's connected with PTLC in the sense that without PTLC, we can have async payment, but without proof of payment, which can be problematic in some commercial cases. I think we can still go there without proof of payments, and then when we make it to PTLC, we can improve it even more. There is the new idea that you can use Ball 12 for contacts. You can do that in Phoenix. So you open your address book, and you save some content that you can pay. If you think about that in fiat applications like Revolut, you don't have to exchange a QR code all the time. You may need a QR code once to connect with somebody, but once you know the particular identity, not the physical KYC legal identity, the identity for that use case, you just reuse it. And in Lightning that was hard. In LNURL it was possible with Lightning address. Ball 12 was not taking very good care of that, and now it is. Now you can have an address book where you do repay people with the same Ball 12. And there is the encapsulation of Ball 12 into BAP21, the universal QR code. I'm convinced this is one of the points and the pain points in the industry. If you go around in San Salvador, in Lugano, and try to pay with Lightning, you already have to say, can I pay with Bitcoin? Yes. And then now, which Bitcoin? Lightning or no? This is ugly. It's ugly now. Let's imagine if you have to say, no, maybe just give me an eCash token with millibits, or no, I want to show you a liquid address. What the hell is a liquid address? Or luckily, at least one ARC implementation is not coming out with a new address format. That is very ugly. Don't come out with new address formats. It's bad. Don't do it. BIP21 may become the universal language to encapsulate Ball 12, to encapsulate the Lightning Network. So Ball 12 is actually something that can only take care of some of the security model. With BIP21, you can also fall back on chain. So everything is falling in nicely. And these two discussions also interact with the discussion of decentralized DID, decentralized digital identity. For example, now I have to give you my Nostr public key and pub something, or maybe I can use the Nostr wallet connector, or maybe we want to talk on a whole punch stack, so I have to give you another public key, or maybe we have to do something else and I have to do another public key. If Lightning is becoming the common language of the Bitcoin economy, and if the Bitcoin economy is becoming the new plan B for the world economy, then maybe we can have just a leverage. We can leverage the diffusion of B21 also for more generic identity. So if we have to open a chat and you have to give me a QR code to identify you as a chat identity, maybe we can reuse a BIP21 again instead of an NPub format on Nostr. This is something to think about. I think that I will force maybe Alekos and the 22 team to make a discussion about these because I think it's very, very interesting and important. Also, we have to fight back against centralized fiat digital identity projects, like the freaking European Soviet Union project for identity. So if we have an alternative which is strong and unified and not fractured, that may be actually interesting. It may even be, in a smart way, in a Trojan horse way, interoperable to some degree. Recurrence is also very important. Ball 12 can now do recurrence, which means that, pay me again, subscription models and stuff like that. That's also very powerful. And nobody that I know of is working on incorporating the asset abstractions into Ball 12. Now, there may be a reason for this, there may be an ideological reason. Somebody could say, why do we want to represent fiat? Fiat is the enemy. Why are we so keen on representing fiat credit inside our standard? I understand this debate. I'm not entirely set either. On one hand, having a nice usage of an asset like a fiat credit can help the spread of the tapping channels and other technologies. There is the argument that doing stuff like USDT, fiat credit denomination, is a harm reduction, because you can have people paying with dollars without having a bank identity in Brazil or Zambia or whatever. That may be good. You have a free secondary market hidden behind a constricted, regulated primary market. I think there are arguments to be made, but if we want to do assets, my suggestion would be do not come up with 7 asset standards. A confidential asset on Liquid should be abstracted away together with an asset on ARC, with an asset on RGB, and things like that. There's also a connection between assets and recurrences, because we have, so even if we pay in sets, we may want to represent the amount in dollar just as a unit of account. So I don't want your USDTs, but I want you to pay me $3 every month, not an amount of sats, because the price will change. And let's be honest, sats are not yet a unit of account in most markets. I still think in dollars many times. I know I'm not the only one. We may have a private confession session later. So if you want to tell people, pay me $10 every week, Ball 12 must have an idea of dollars, which should be compatible with what is actually representation of a dollar credit on USDT, on Liquid, on RGB, TapS, and whatever. So yeah, it's something we can think about. And then there is the LSP. We already discussed a lot about LSP last year. How much is with the time? Okay. Well, it's going. It's something. So there is also a debate here. I was very excited about LSP standardization with Roy and John. Then I realized that in most cases, LSP are not really something that should necessarily be interoperable. It's better if it is. But for example, in my opinion, what we're seeing now is that a Ascent team is just building one of the best LSP providers, and other people are just basically catching up to stay compatible, which I think is good. It's a good model. You don't need the users to agree on there's just one catch. You may want the user to be able to seamlessly move across LSPs. So at least one part of the LSP model specification, which is the part that allows the interfaces with the user and allows the user to just move across them, that should be unified. That should be interoperable, because we don't want a lock-in effect. So we don't want the user to basically onboard with Ascent and then be unable to recover, to move, to cross, to swap. So that's the level of interoperability which is very important for the global security of the Lightning Network and of Bitcoin. So I know that I ended up like this. I always do that. But at least this time I didn't offend any Bitcoin community like our Turkish or German community like I did 2 years ago. So yeah, I mean, you cannot complain this time. Thank you very much, and let's go on to the panel. And good job, everybody.